it was a dark winter night, and I was driving up the canyon to my house. And I was on the curves. It's a curvy, windy road to my house. And I came around, and as I was there, I was in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about my business, all the things that I should do, all the things that, I'm wanting to make happen. I'm trying to push my business into. I'm all up here in my head. And I drove around this curve, and as I drove around this curve, there in the middle of the road, I saw two yellow eyes come to meet mine. And I slowed my car to a stop. And there in front of me was this most magnificent owl. An owl. And she was beautiful. And we were there in this moment, and time slowed down. It stood still. And I just felt her presence. And I was there. And as suddenly she put her wings out with one flap of her wings, and then a second flap of her wings, and she was gone. And it was a beautiful moment that became forever etched into my soul. So I drove home. I finished driving home. I got out my journal, and I started to started to write. And I was like, okay, what's this mean? What's the message here for me? It was so deep into my soul that I knew that there was an important message for me. And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And then I went and got out my favorite book, the Ted Andrews Animal Speaks. Does anybody know that book? Yeah. So it's a book, and it's like, what's the meaning of owl? And lo and behold, owl is our feminine. It's our wisdom. It's our intuition. It's a bridge between two worlds. And the more I read it, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. I was really, at this time, this was about 10 years ago, I was really starting to come into my feminine. I was really starting to even discover my feminine because I had worked in the oil and gas industry for 20 years, and there wasn't a lot of feminine to be found in the oil and gas industry. And so I was feeling this energy. I was so connected to it, and I'm like, this is amazing. And the other cool thing is I live in this valley, and I'd been living in that, at that time I saw the owl, I'd been living there, and there'd never been an owl in my valley. Suddenly, and for the last 10 years, I have had owls around me all over the place. And they call to each other. And when I get out of sync, when I'm in that driving mode, guess what? I don't see the owls. I don't hear the owls. When I get grounded into myself, I know that I hear the owls. They're there. They're around me all the time. And so it was this moment that started this. And so I always say that the owl calls. The owl's calling to my soul. The owl's telling me to slow down, to listen, to be in that wisdom of me that we have as feminine, as women.